people to the Paladins Pro Circuit community broadcast, and happy Saturday to everybody that's going to be joining us for today. We have two regions to go over today. First, we'll be starting off in the European bracket to see how things are going to go down there, and then we will be moving on later on after the set is done, of course, to the Brazilian bracket. I'm very honored to be here to introduce to intro the day with you guys, as well as bring in Kresnik. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good, and I just want to make a note. If anyone wants to know which game we're in, if you were in this screen between games where you're not sure, look at the chat. If everyone is spamming a red blob text emote, and all speaking language you might not know, then we are probably watching Brazil. But for now, we're gonna start in Europe here. ChromaSpace versus Celestial, two teams that are kind of I want to say around the middle. I actually don't know exactly where they are in the standings as we stand right now, but they're two teams that I think have had close games before. ChromaSpace, I think, started a little tough earlier, but I feel like they're a team with a lot of potential that can go forward in here. With picking up Ovim on support was an interesting choice, but I think they've since shifted him, and that might be a good chance to get a new look at how ChromaSpace are going to be as we go forward in the phase.
Absolutely, and for those of you who aren't too aware of who Ovim is, of course, we saw him
Who
little bit
doesn't
last
know
year
Ovim,
throughout
Fawn?
Well, I mean, but at the same, you never know, dude. Sometimes people can be tuning in for the very, very first time or not too sure on who these teams quite might be. So Ovim last year played in the Paladins minor league as one of the forerunners of the tank position, more so main tank. He played a lot of Inara, but at
He
the
was
same
on
time
Penta.
being moved over into, more than anything, being moved onto the support role. That's a pretty big shift because those are two completely different roles. So you mentioned before how Chroma had a little bit of a rough start earlier on as the PPC was starting this season, but hopefully after extended amount of time, they've been able to figure out exactly where it is that they wanted to go and what it is they wanted to stick with. Maybe this role change is exactly what they could have needed.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see how it goes from then on. But I do have the map bans to tell you between these two teams, between Chroma and Celestial. It looks like ChromaSpace banned Bazaar and Ice Mines, so two kind of unique maps, I would say, in that system. And Warder's Gate and Shattered Desert taken out by Celestial. So we're basically left with the bog standard Fawn. Not really that much craziness left in the map pool for them to kind of go around. And it means I can take you right into picks and bans for Jaguar Falls. ChromaSpace is going to be first pick. We'll get this. I hovered over the button, afraid to hit it, because I actually forgot if I had set up the picks and bans ahead of time, and then I realized that I did. So we are ready for that. And ChromaSpace, they want first pick on Jaguar Falls, and we know Jag is a map where you can kind of do anything and play any champion, play any strategy.
Yeah, and we'll have to see, of course, how the bans are going to start things off. And we're going to see what happens here. And it's going to be Vivian, of course. Can't say too surprised here.
Yeah.
ChromaSpace are going to make that their first ban. Celestial are going to respond with the Genos. That's already going to be a good look. Take care of one of the pocket healers. ChromaSpace, of course, are going to get rid of Victor. So let's see who Celestial are going to try and round things out with towards the end. And it's actually going to be the Terminus. Okay, cool. But they've left open one of the pocket picks. So one of the pocket healers, excuse me. So whenever Chroma are going to start things off, and it's going to be an Atlas. That's very interesting to see how things are started off for ChromaSpace, especially since Celestial have gotten rid of one of the pocket picks. I mean, I'm not too sure what could be the reasoning for leaving this Corvus open. Do they
Well,
feel like
Fawn, we're in Europe.
Here?
Don't forget how things were going the last couple of weeks.
Oh, that is a good point. Yes,
there
have definitely been times where Corvus has been unpicked, unbanned in previous regions before, EU being one of those regions where they haven't really, I don't know if they haven't found the value in Corvus or what it could be, but at the same time, okay, well, never mind. ChromaSpace do actually end up picking the Corvus here, end up locking it third. That's interesting. We see either in BR or in North America that a lot of these teams like to lock in that Corvus first, but having the sustainability there on the side of ChromaSpace, that's going to be pretty huge, especially with the divider. It's going to be a lot harder to try and force fights behind that wall.
I mean, you still have you have a couple healers that bring that healing, even if the lifesteal maybe not valued quite as much. But they wanted that Atlas just for that AoE kind of rewind. His self-sustain, which is hard to burn through his shield, can eat an infinite amount of damage effectively. So a little bit more for them to have to go through. And two tanks picked up by Celestial, two kind of tanky ones. Could have done Damba, ended up sticking out with the Grover instead to have that AoE sustain and to have Grover not necessarily have to peek around those corners. So two picks left for ChromaSpace. Cassie will be the first of the two. Some solid damage there, I think. Big game, actually. Decent potential against them, but they might want that impulse to deal with the flankers And rounding out the draft will be Ruckus. So that Cassie honestly might have just been more to deny them from getting that Cassie to counter out the Ruckus. Big Game would have done so much, I think, into Atlas and Ruck. Get rid of Cassie. You know she's going to be flexible anywhere, play any talent, maybe other than Exaction on the other side, looking at the other draft. And they're lacking a backline on the side of Celestial with Vivian banned. I'm thinking maybe Tyra could be something you want here as that hit scan close range, but they go with Strix instead. Handle's getting dived a little bit better at the start of the game, but I think it scales a little worse than Tyra. Tyra, her way to live through dive is her DR. That always stays the same. Strix has his invisibility and his flashbang, but once you get to the end game, once that Illuminate is online, that invisibility is a little bit less effective, and you're saying, well, I better have flashbang every time I get dove, or maybe I won't be able to live through the pressure that's coming onto me.
You also have to think about the perspective that Strix is being locked in last against an Atlas with Divider. You talked a little bit about the counteracting that you can do when he gets dove onto, but you're right. Once it becomes later on in the game, it's a lot harder to try and use that invisibility to get out the way when you are being looked at 24/7, especially as Illuminate is going to reveal you. But even still with the Divider, that's going to make it a lot harder for them to try and break the front lines as well. Even though Slop is on the Strix, that makes it a lot harder to try and still break through that Divider, because you have to respect it, right? You have to reposition in whatever way that you can to make sure that you're not just shooting blindly into a Divider. He has to make sure he doesn't toss that flashbang there either, or that anybody's ultimate doesn't get blocked inside of Celestial Esports. So, I mean, I'm interested to see how this Strix is going to form as the game goes on later, and later, of course. Doesn't seem like anything's been too different in terms of talent picks here, except for Nocturnal. Obviously, he wants to reduce that stealth energy, that stealth energy consumption, because we had just mentioned it before. He's going to be dove onto. We know that. You've got the, you've got the Ruckus, you've got the Andro. Like, what more can you ask for at that point?
We'll see what can kind of get onto him. I think they might have the ability to kill him. He might be able to stealth away, though. Let me see this level of tactical retreat he has. 5, so 50% speed to escape when that area is crossed to get onto him. We'll watch how they start this, with everyone kind of stacking down mid. Ovum actually on the Atlas, so rotating back to this tank role, and the fight at the start is really happening on the outside. Toot's dash gets canceled, and he's taken down, but it's a trade 1-for-1.
Yeah, Ovum didn't get a chance to use that rewind nor use the Divider, but they're at least able to find 2-2 for it at the same time. Celestial have been garnering percentage for their team the entire time. Otev rotates around, knows that Choreo and the rest of the team are in the back line, while Audium is trying to put pressure on the front side. Ruckus is there, but they end up collapsing. Everyone's brought super low. Nepo with a nice double kill, and it forces Inara off of the point. Now they're getting percentage in their own right on the side of ChromaSpace. The rest of the people on Celestial Esports, the rest of the ones I should say remaining, are going to have to group up, see if they can try and retreat. Inara brought extremely low, but they're not going to find the pick.
Yeah, they're smart for them to disengage, I think. Not a lot of cap time. You can back up play on your Grover, but look at this. ChromaSpace. Coriel will spot his POV. He's on the back. Trying to win Slop, taken down so low, but only Xenos showing there. The speed really helping him rotate out. Doesn't predict the right way either, but now they're kind of pincered in there, but the health on both teams is getting really rough.
Yeah, they end up getting rid of their healer. That's going to be a huge pick for them. Nepo is at least able to trade things out on Slop. Same thing for Xenos, as now the kills are checkerboarding. But when the smoke clears, ChromaSpace and they're going to be the ones on top. 2-2 is one of the last members remaining on the side of Celestial Esports. Tries to shoulder bash his way out. Audium tries to body block him, is willing to trade his life out for that one. Because of that, they're going to be able to capture the point on ChromaSpace's side.
Adium, a noble sacrifice just to trade that one pick and potentially set them up for this aggressive push. But with the timing of the deaths, they have to just wait, I think, for everyone to come back. Ovum smartly just 3-peeking around this corner, and Nepo gives up the card as well. It lets Celestial reset, but it makes their push potentially a little bit stronger, knowing that they have to travel a little bit more distance to get their respawns back. Ovum will actually play up here. I like the shield potentially. Let's get a 3-peek to see exactly what it does. Actually, no, it doesn't help his team at all. They were trying to play off of it, but it just makes the whirlwind happen as Ovum comes around on the flank. Hexafire perfectly blocks that dash, but Otev, why do you peek? And he gave them a kill, but at least it's a trade.
At the same time, Ovum was flanking around behind him, just like you were mentioning before, Kresnik, and the big game's going to be a factor here, as Audium's going to find another pick. Ovum making sure that Inara was stuck between him and the rest of his team means that they're going to find that easy pickings on the side of ChromaSpace, as the cart is still going to keep rolling right on in. Beautiful Hexafire from Coriel as well to make sure that nobody can peek unless you're the Zen, who ends up peeking and ends up getting picked apart. Simzovsky is going to get picked off soon after that, though. That's another time where their healer goes down first, and they're going to force the rest of them back. Nepo so low it has to back up a lot, but he's still not even dead.
Yeah, manages to live. I think they got a great setback on Tutu while he was trying to dive in. Look at the health pool right now on ChromaSpace.
Wow.
It is atrocious, but that was because of the death of Sensovsky. He's finally back, able to top everyone back off. Can't find any kills because of this retreat, but Adium distracts long enough for them to lose Tutu, so it is still a 4v4, but ChromaSpace still have to hold back and reheal.
There's already a huge 1-for-1 trade as Nepo flanks all the way around to the back. Once again, Klosar is caught out and he is dealt with as Xenost has to back up along with Otev. Otev trying to find a little bit more strikes onto the enemy team, but can't find much. Still has to concede the advantage that they had for a few moments as now ChromaSpace have swapped the momentum towards their side. Adium finds a pick onto Otev, and that's going to be a good look for them as they round the corner. Nepo gets picked off by Xenost. Too many eyes looking at him. The divider goes up, blocking a lot of the shots. Tutu has the assert dominance there. Of course, we're going to have to see if he's going to use it or not. Might hold on to it for a little bit longer, but Coriel gets dropped down to barely anything. The shield gets burnt down, and there goes the rest of his life.
Yeah, I like the push by Coriel at the very start, but getting rooted in the middle and no one else really being able to follow up kind of just ruined it. Only one alive is Nepo. We'll see if he can get out. The miracle potentially with the speed from Elusive, just enough to get him around that final corner. Celestial get a strong defense. There at the end, we'll pull up the stats just to see how things are looking for the teams. Top damage across the board for ChromaSpace, both their DPS above the DPS on the side of Celestial. Otev is a little low, below 2 tanks, but I think he's just kind of playing this cleanup role, not really committing too hard, doesn't want to just get CC'd by the Atlas or knocked around by the Cassie, so he's just playing that cleanup role. Look at the KDs as well, you can see he's doing decently in the kill department, and Slop is actually doing a great job of not going down. We'll take a look at our scope while I talk about that. Slop has been able to stay alive, able to use that speed and that stealth chain in the guerrilla tactics in his build to keep himself going to run away from that fight. ChromaSpace, I feel like they win the fight every time they have a good shield from Ovim, and when they try to engage without that wall, it's a lot harder. So I think a lot of pressure on Ovim here. Keep things where they need to be. There's things in the way to get a better look at the game right now. Adium holding back Ovim. Have the shield, and it just got them some space, but the rest of Celestial just disengaged. They're playing on top of this Grover. They're all still staying alive and deathballing straight through into them.
Oh, here we go, the seismic crash. That could be huge. Assert dominance to start the fight, and seismic crash could be potentially the ender for them as Ovim has to use the divider, has to back up a little bit more, but everyone's still pushing through it. They're going to go right on through it, make sure they find that next pick on the Ovim. Reversal gets utilized, and the Otev as a Hexifier gets burnt directly into the wall. Renard placed it extremely well. Whirlwind to make sure everybody stays alive in case Coriel somehow managed to find good damage on the rest of his team. Xenos gets brought so low, and Adium rotates right around to make sure that he can get that last hit directly onto the healer. Tutu has to afford the space that has been granted to ChromaSpace, but gets blocked immediately by Otev. Dashes directly in front of him as now he's stuck in the corner, and he's going to get dealt with.
They might have a retouch coming around from the side if Otev can get it unseen right now. I'll get a little free time here. Adium is ready to duel him. A burst combo immediately forces the counter plus the shield, but actually they're all looking away. Klosar makes it in as Coriel tries to go and pinch them as this death ball comes back in, but they don't see Tutu coming back. Coriel gets stun locked in the dive. Maybe it doesn't work, but they're so distracted. Klosar can't make it to the point, even with Celestial cleaning up too. ChromaSpace got the point.
Yeah, Klosar was just being looked at by too many people on the side of ChromaSpace and couldn't exactly capture the point for any longer, even try to contest. Everyone got their eyes drawn towards Coriel. Such a pivotal presence as the cripple axe goes out. Sensovsky almost goes down, but Tutu wants to take this advantage. Slop finds the hit that he was looking for. Corvus is going to be able to make it out just in enough time. Billows the rewind, doesn't get caught. Divider goes out to make sure they can't stand any further back as the exile gets utilized. I want to see if they can get a pick. Manages to exile Slop, who will be the next one. It already runs out. He's going to be able to refund two of his, at least one of the 3 charges he still had available for him. But a beautiful assert dominance from Ash as Tutu charges all the way back in. Over uses the rewind and make sure that he can live for a little bit longer. Coriel goes down, and that's going to be pretty huge. They haven't really found any ground. They haven't even gotten the pick. Adium comes around the corner, and Tutu is there. They're going to be able to find that much, but at the same time, they don't really give up any space on the side of Celestial Esports.
Yeah, Celestial have just kept them locked in their spawn with all their superior poke, I think. I mean, the Xin heavy swing and all that, but oh my god, Ovim and Cassie combined to just delete Slop from full to gone. And Celestial scatter like roaches when you turn on the light. They have to just get out of there. Klosar gets set back to be pulled back in. Doesn't have the cooldowns to live. Has to use that DR. Almost falls. Tropic Breach to chase. It's not enough, but ChromaSpace still on the gas.
The Accursed Arm might be enough, but the counter goes up from Zen, and it gets deflected for the most part. Causes him to cancel it probably a little bit preemptively. And he can't really find the kill that he needs to. Can't say the same for Coriel, as he at least finds one. They trade out Ovum, but the rest of them have to back up, even if a little bit longer. Coriel has given them a lot of space, but everyone's grouped up around this Grover. It's going to make it hard for them to push into that, especially when a few of them were already low from the ensuing fight. Andro wants to go in and finds a good couple of shots, but gets brought down almost instantly thanks to Slop. Coriel gets rooted almost instantly as well. Doesn't use the Hexafire, just wants to hold on to it for a little bit longer. Could have been a potential usage there, but he wants to hold on to it.
Definitely good to have it for the next mid with how effective they've been. Not the easiest ultimate to actually make work. At this level, people don't really peek it, but he keeps finding the opportunities, and he'll keep taking them as long as they're there. A lot of low health bars on Celestial. If they can move before a Blossom, they might be able to find an early kill, but they're playing it slow. They want to fight this in overtime to get everyone topped off. And they've actually kind of baited out Closar's damage reduction. It's down now. All he has is his slow end, not even his wall yet, so he has to let the card move. He's in front of everybody. This wall has to be perfect, and it is. Coriel dives in the back. That was their plan, but not enough, and now they have to burn down these tanks in front of them.
The guard gets utilized by the Inara as now Audium is brought extremely low. Nepo tries to give some body blocks, and he does. Corvus heals him up just enough, but Slop finds that hit and is left very, very low thanks to Nepo. He doesn't get healed up in enough time. Everyone on the side of Celestial was low for the most part, but they can't really find the capitalization they want. Slop with a nice few shots is not only going to find one, but two. Will it be the third? Misses the shot on Audium. But Coriel's one of the only ones that's remaining on the point. Tries to stall for as long as he can. The wall goes up, and that's it for this round. Celestial tie this up 2-2.
And that was, I think, a good attempt by ChromaSpace, but a better play by Celestial near the very end, getting Slop to go into that window and really just rattle shots into the back line. It's really hard to deal with that when you have a Strix there that can't really be pushed. Coriel diving early, mostly just unfortunate. If they knew that their focus was going to be taking down that Inara, burning down her cooldowns and catching her right afterwards, they could have made that work a little better, but it just ended up being isolated. Let them take two 4v1s, and the Inara will last longer. She's going to be the one to walk away from it most of the time in the end. In terms of the mid, Chroma have all their ultimates. Celestial are still down their Whirlwind, so that's an advantage they can pounce on. If they can catch this Grover alone, they might actually just be able to clean up the entire team that's death bowling around it.
Celestial know that for the most part as they're grouping up with the Grover to try and take the site by statue. As once again, Inara is gaining more and more percentage for her team. They at least find one on the Audium, and Nepo actually flanks all the way around and finds that pick onto the Grover that they want. It manages to exile the Zen, but at the same time, their objective is to move on to the point. They notice that Closar is already extremely low. Take care of him, and Otev is next soon after. 15% for ChromaSpace, as they've not only wiped the team, but they've found the percentage that they want.
The Exile actually some great CC in the middle of the fight there, which will allow them, as you said, win that fight and move forward and get this zone. Hit scans being forward is great, but now can go. So to say they're not looking at Inara, but they did get her. Ovum got those last couple shots. All the cap time at the start went to Celestial. They're going to be able to get back in, but they're countering the Seismic Crash with a Hexafire. Everyone in front of it can tank this damage, but they need to touch, so they have to eat that. Closar is so low, but Ash tries to touch the point. She does it! She gets set back! Ovum stops it and gets them the point!
Very, very good setback from the Atlas, as now we see that the fight on the side has broken out. Otev is there with Coriel, and they find that last pick as Xenos evens things up by getting rid of Nepo. But this is where Coriel wants to be. We've seen him in the back line so many times. He knows that Grover is there and uses the divider perfectly to stop the Cripple Axe, as well as make sure that he doesn't have the cooldown, and they pick off Slop as the cart is still rolling right on in. Very good play around the divider from Coriel.
And I'll keep the pressure up. Ovum caught out, actually, trying to walk in. The good wall from Closar stops him. When your second chance point isn't behind the wall, you are kind of just have no choice but to accept your fate at that point. As Atlas and Celestial, they want to get a repeat of that aggressive defense they got last time, but the scout will make it a little bit harder. They can't get they're getting surrounded now, and they know it. Coriel already in the back. What a play right now from Chroma.
Found their way onto Slopodopolis, and now 2-2 goes down next. The rest of them are grouped up. Perfect for a rocket barrage from Coriel, as he's going to be able to plug in a lot of damage, but make sure he at least gets the last hit directly on the Grover. Now he wants to flank, at least on around the side, and hold the ground. Make sure nobody can make their way back as the rest of ChromaSpace respond in kind to try and help Coriel's zone. 1 minute and 15 seconds still remaining as the cart is continually rolling right on in. Ovum eats a lot of damage and puts up the divider. Bradley's able to be healed by Corvus for a little bit longer, but he has to back up. He has to give up the space. He gets set back almost instantly. It's 2-2. He tries to use the shoulder back just to try and force an engagement, but that's not going to be enough. Reversal goes up and finds the damage. Nepo found one. Can he find the second? And he does. Now the Entropic Breach gets utilized as 2-2 has to charge his way out of the fight, but the rest of them have to touch. They have to find their way on the cart, but they can't. As ChromaSpace are going to make this a 1-0.
Slop just in the middle of them like, yes, it's me, your teammate. Don't worry about me. I'm here. No, brutal end by ChromaSpace. I was worried about that wall, but I think having Nepo dive in on the back off the damage they did, exactly what they needed. Andro is a character that can carry, and when you're as well synced up as they were near the end, he was able to do just that. Let me swap this around so we can jump to these stats, as I hope I entered the right things in, and I did. We have the damage and everything right here. Adium 108,000 and Nepo 103, and that's big game boosted. So honestly, props to Nepo a lot there. I know Adium outdamaged him, but that's a lot of big game boost, and Nepo just had the Cursed Revolver and a Dream on his side. Coriel was 76, and there was actually some decent damage on the other side. Toot above Otev, and a lot of damage absorbed by all the tanks. So I'd call that a fairly even game. I think at the end of it, Chroma just was the team that executed better.
Yeah, and I think it is partly thanks not only to Corvus' pocket potential that we know him so well for, and his ability to be able to spread out heals better than most of the other supports it is that we see get picked nowadays. And not just him, but I really want to give a shout out to Coriel, because even though he went 9-9, he actually broke even despite how many times he was able to actually apply so much pressure in the backline. And we saw that win them fights. They were able to capture the point because so many eyes were looking at him. Closar couldn't do much of anything. When he tried to stand on the point, everybody else was looking at him. Where was the rest of his team? Looking at Coriel because of the space that he was garnering for the rest of his team. So I think this ruckus is huge, along with the Atlas, because the Divider plays such a huge role in how those ultimates were being utilized. Nobody really was able to gain the ground they needed trying to play around the Divider. Even Inara using Seismic Crash got eaten up by the Divider, so it just made it that much easier for them to even try to capture the point and force them off of the objective.
Yeah, I mean, when you play at a distance from the shield, once you put it down, Inara can actually splash in front of it. So Inara can actually throw it straight down. If the wall is here, this is a terrible. I realize you can't see me, but everyone else can, so hopefully that matters. If the wall is here and you hit it right in front of it, the AoE will go through it. You just can't actually put the spear itself through it, or else it will get eaten. Same with the Dread Serpent. The exact same thing works. If you detonate it right in front of the wall, people on the other side of it will get feared. So some tech around it, but they were able to play a distance from it, make it a lot harder for Closar to utilize that ultimate. So Chroma, after a win, Celestial, that was Chroma's map pick, so now it will be Celestial's going forward, or at least it will be, because they lost the coin flip at the start here. So Celestial will choose Stone Keep as map 2, and I think that's a decent place to go after Jaguar Falls. It's still a pretty standard map in the grand scheme of things, but it is a little more favored towards verticality. But you can still kind of avoid it. If you play a very long-range pokey style, you can play outside, lock them in the keep. A lot of different things you can do on this map, and Celestial want to have that flexibility as we go into draft.
We've seen a lot of focus around the blasters as well on Stone Keep. I mean, we've seen more dredges, we've seen Bomb Kings, of course. So on this map with Stone Keep, there's a lot more flexibility that we can see here. We could have saw it last round as well, or I should say last map on Jaguar Falls, but they just found more value out of the Ruckus and Atlas more than anything, and the damage dealers they had as well with Audium on the Cassie just made it so much more apparent that that's what they wanted to stick with. They wanted those strong backliners, so that's what it was they got. But this time, these are going to be changed up. We got the Ruckus, we got the Genos, and we got the Vivian being banned out first, and the Victor on the side of ChromaSpace. But the Ruckus and Genos are the more interesting things. They don't want to deal with that dive. Coriel was just too much of a monster on this Ruckus to let that slide through once again.
Yeah, I mean, maybe if they had the Atlas, they could have done it, but they didn't have a way to set him back and kind of deny the value out of what they had. But they are first pick, so they will get that Atlas for themselves. Now when you dive, they do. If it is with a ROM or something like that, can be potentially denied. So Chroma, I wouldn't be shocked if they honestly avoid it. They just don't want to have to deal with it. But ChromaSpace, again, Stone Keep, a map where you can be vertical. That can help you a lot. Androxus will specifically help with that. And I think I would go for a support if I was them. I mean, Corvus is still available if they want to get that pocket pick, something that can keep that Andro alive, help him win those duels with the grand design. Inara is okay. I mean, she's one of the best tanks in the game. She's getting banned and prioritized quite a bit in different regions, so get her. I mean, even into Atlas, if you play well, you can avoid those setbacks and make the most out of your cooldowns.
So we'll see for the most part that, once again, Andrew, of course, being a pretty standard pick here on the side, ChromaSpace and Anara as well. Once again, one of the strongest point tanks right now, I believe, personally, as we see her consistently, and even have found herself in the ban column as well. But Ash and Grover going to be locked in on the side of Celestial, so they have some aggression. They have some death ball capabilities on the side of Celestial Esports. They can play more aggro if they wanted to, but ChromaSpace are the ones with the Zen and the Corvus to round things out for their draft. And it seems like Celestial are going to go for the Strix once again. Is what's going to happen here. And Maeve is going to be the final pick for Celestial Esports on their side. Who do you see Chroma rounding their draft out with?
I mean, I think they might need either a backline or an anti-flanker if they want to do triple DPS. If they want to do double tank, I think you can still get away with ROM and go just super aggressive into the back. I think there's a couple options that they have if they want to go that route. Even a sniper. I mean, it is just Maeve you can own with a Kinessa, but it will be Cassie instead. So Scout to sort of counter out the Midnight. I don't really want to call it a hard counter because you're giving up the Scout at the start of the round, which is one of the best uses of it. I mean, if you Scout right when a round begins, you basically say, if there's anything cool you wanted to do, I have just entirely denied that from you and taken away any flank potential. But now they have to hold on to it if they want that Midnight to get less value, and they don't want to have to rush Resilience. But there's a lot of CC on the side of Celestial, so Resilience not really a big ask on ChromaSpace. I think I can almost guarantee you that Chroma is going to start Caught Resil on quite a few of their characters.
Yeah, and that makes the most sense, of course, because like you said, they have a lot of a lot of unignorable CC on the side of Celestial, so you have to be able to respond to that somehow. But of course, it seems like once we are able to actually end up showing the game, we can see if they will start off with Caught Resil, which I can't imagine that they wouldn't either. Just too much of early powerful CC on the side of them with the Cripple Axe and everything in terms of the talents. Doesn't seem like anything's too crazy for the most part. Nocturnal to make sure that he can get out of those situations a lot easier on the side of Celestial Esports, at least for Slapodopoulos. And there it is.
God.
There's the Caught and the Resil.
Spreading influence? What? No. I mean, I just wanted to sound amazed about something. It just ended up being, I wanted to pick the least exciting one, but yeah, Caught Resil, Caught Illuminate actually for Nepo. He's the one who thinks he's going to be dealing with Slop the most, I guess. So pick that up and could help once you get on top of him again. That's why he scales a little bit worse. And yeah, that's a lot of Resil. Only one person really didn't go for it, so not surprising. You definitely need that against all the CC that they have. But I love seeing Deja Vu ran. I think personally it's superior to the big shield at the moment, to gonna have that kind of self-sustained utility to utilize here. Randall, look at this close art, totally surrounded, but Coriel took so much damage. He just disappeared from the game.
They try to use they try to use the setback to see if they can manage to catch one of them. Sensovsky's still going to go down though, even though the setback didn't quite find its mark. They're going to move at least all the way into the back line as Ovum is taken care of. They're trying to catch the Zen out, and they manage to. Coriel just makes it back, but everyone else has already pushed up so far. I mean, they have to be able to stall for a little bit longer. Coriel shooting into the back of 2-2, but he has his rewind. He's not going to care too much about that, as now the Earthen Guard is down. The rewind gets utilized as well. They're looking at the Anara to try and find more and more damage. Not going to be able to find the kill, but you pretty much got a confirmed point capture at this point. Celestial are sitting pretty.
Yeah, and Celestial definitely going to keep up this pressure, and Chroma, they might have a chance to break out. They can shove through here. Lots of damage early with that Yomi, but Double Tank, they're going to miss the guillotine, I think, as this goes on. With 2-2 actually kind of ambushed by Coriel, will have to rewind. It brings him back in. He has the second chance, though. Deja Vu going to keep him alive. They might even find Coriel off this, and they do.
And they do, yeah. As soon as the Earthen Guard goes down, they use that setback to make sure they can find the kill, and they do almost instantly. Whirlwind gets utilized as all the kills start popping up for Celestial Esports. Minute 55 seconds, and we already got the cart over halfway despite that. So that's the good look for Celestial, as you now see that OTEV is not afraid, and it's even standing directly in their spawn, waiting for anybody to peek out of the doors. Everyone is waiting with open arms. And Coriel goes down once again on the Adar. Same thing for Ovum. They just ended up coming back, and they still find a way to pick him off.
I wish I could see kill recaps from the player's perspective, because I have absolutely no idea what just happened to Coriel. He just stopped existing. Honestly, that was just probably a Strix headshot and a Maeve burst before he got the DR up, and once the DR was up, he was just in the killing fields at that point. Really nowhere else he could end up hiding to survive. I wasn't expecting this. I really never see this card ever on an Ashe. It is just a filler, of course, but Furious Charge. On Ashe, most people run that on percussion because Shoulder Bash has a decent amount of knockback already. You don't want to knock him too far out of your range, but look at those KDAs real quick. Fun. I don't know if you noticed, but ChromaSpace have 0 kills. A pretty big flip, I would say, from the last game where it looked super contested, but Celestial looked like they're just running away with it right now.
Yeah, I mean, no one's down on the side of Celestial either, so this seems like to be a pretty clean sweep. At least that's how that first round looks so far. I guess Corey will have to wait a little bit longer before he decides to go in. He's already pushing up and trying to capture on point, but this is looking a little bit like deja vu, no pun intended, as Atlas comes right around, tries to find the damage, seismic crash as well. He's waiting up in the high ground, see if he can fire down directly onto Inara, but Corvus actually heals him in enough time to make sure he can contest the point for as long as possible. 4 ultimates up on the side of Celestial, but the comeback mechanic means the Celestial are playing against the clock here. They have to find someone that can touch on point. They get the set back and it sets them up perfectly for the assert dominance, but the wall actually stops it, at least stops what most could have been a bad situation. Portal still gets picked off though by Slopodopolis. They find 2-2 on the side and Tropic Breach gets utilized, and they find 2 for 2 already, as now we're looking at a 3v3 over. Combat rolls his way in, sees Slot right there, rolls out of the way and finds the last hit, 54% for Celestial Esports, as the rest of ChromaSpace are trying to find their way back to see if they can cap the point.
I mean, Ovum cleaned up a bunch of them on the flank over there, so I think a strong showing from him so far, but they have to keep this fought. They actually pull Coriel back to the point, so another sad situation for him as Celestial regain control of the objective, and Xenos burnt right out of his whirlwind.
Yeah, that's going to be actually pretty huge for them, especially since they've just now made it to point to be able to touch. They cause the overtime as Otev is on the side. They find the pick on him. Slop finds one, 2-2 finds the other, and Ashe is one of the only ones remaining on site, meaning that this is a 3-0 as Celestial captured their second point in this map. Can they roll it in the same way? They don't have as aggressive of a push this time around, but they definitely cleaned up towards the tail end of that fight.
Oh yeah, I mean, when Ovum scouted the Midnight, he got almost 4 kills there. So Chroma, I mean, they have the DM ability, they can actually fight this, but look at this, 2-2 is just making a world of space right now, running straight into the back line. Unfortunate shield makes him go down, but ChromaSpace, they stabilize even after losing their healer, but Adium, no, Closar with the trade just poking away with this Ashe right now in front of Inara and Cassie. The wall gets forced out, and it ends up being kind of a moot, just a duel here. Even trades back and forth, but Celestial, the card is so far back, they can just get right back on, and it's almost like nothing happened, just bled 15 seconds.
Here we go, shoulder bash, and as I see that Cassie's on the side, but it gets disengaged right off of the side of the map. Otev is at least able to trade things out, but of course, the good old debate. You do love to see it, as Ovum is at least going to find one. Nepo finds the other soon after, but they're still check recording the kills. Slop finds another nice headshot. Will he be able to get the Corvus? Corvus says, no way, I'm not peeking that one again, as Coriel flanks right around on the side and manages to at least peel for support a little bit longer. They use the Atropic Breach, as he was trying to use that really to get out from 2-2, just pressuring him, but he still finds the pick. Ovum finds one on 2-2, so that's a good look, but I don't know if Celestial can keep on pushing. It seems like they don't care whatsoever. Wall goes up, but they're still holding their ground.
I think Chroma have a fatal flaw in their defense here, and I think their Corvus is holding too close to the fight without anyone covering all the angles, because 2-2 is literally just walking in whatever space is open and killing Corvus. And Corvus is supposed to be really survivable. He has a teleport, an insane mobility, but just can't make it work. Seismic Crash here might catch them up in front, but Coriel trying to dive, but they've already lost one with Closar, and Coriel doesn't have the damage to follow up on anything.
Getting rid of Aria means that's going to be pretty good, as Celestial are trying to end things right here, right now. They find the pick on the Ovum as well. That's 2 down, and Zen just respawns, but Coriel has no DR. He's going to get taken care of almost instantly. 2 ultimates still up and alive and well. Doesn't seem like anyone can really peek out. He gets really just exiled to suit just off of the hitbox of his horse. Assert dominance up on top.
Cut off the point.
And I think they realized, that. Everyone was up in their spawn. They were off of sight, and then Grover was like, oh, my bad. And then he just rolls it right on in. Celestial with a 1-1 tie. That's a good look for them on Stone Keep, especially how Jaguar Falls went last round.
Yeah, unfortunate on the card getting delayed a little bit there. But yeah, I think the Corvus ended up needing to be way more protected than he was. I mean, I would, if I could rewatch that game right now through Toot's POV, you would see him just saying like, "Oh, is no one on this flank? Am I the only one on the map right now?" And he just walked right through and killed Sinsovsky in all the fights that should have been super sustainable, having him get pocketed, having 25% lifesteal on the DPS. It just wasn't there. It didn't have it because they weren't protecting him, or at least he was too close to the unwatched area of the map. So Celestial run away with that one, exploiting that weakness, taking us to a 1-1 current stat in the set. As I'll pull up the numbers here, it looks like, oh wait, no, is that still game 1? It looks like that is still game 1 for some reason, so I'll go back to us while I figure out why that is still game 1. Yeah, no, they just had a weakness that was exploited, and Celestial found that out, and they needed to be able to adapt, I think, a little bit faster on the side of Chroma.
Yeah, and I think a lot of those situations ended up with Coriel being one of the first ones that got picked off. I mean, as soon as the Earthen Guard was down, everyone looked at him. Cat Burglar made it so much harder for him to stand on there because 520 per dagger, that makes it a lot harder to really stand anywhere. That's a lot of damage, especially on a Nara. I mean, you get hit by him, you get hit by Toot Toot. There's a lot of people that are going to be looking at a Nara, especially since no matter what, Coriel always seemed to go to the point almost indefinitely. He always went to the point and sat there, and they just waited for his DR to run out. It seemed like there was sort of a miscommunication there on the side of ChromaSpace because of how many times Coriel seemed to die alone without anyone really backing him up.
Yeah, definitely tough for both of them. They just kept getting isolated. The DPS weren't taking a lot of space. They all kind of had like 37k damage, all roughly even. Toot ended up being even with them, and Otev and Slop kind of ran away with it. 43k, 51k on them. We'll take a look at the KDs and items. Corvus actually died less than I thought with how open he was, but Toot with a lot of kills. Same with Slop. 7-3 Toot, 7-3 Otev, 11-3 Slop. Nepo kind of struggling with the 3-9. Tough to duel into the players that he was trying to fight. I think he had some moments, but never really anything so explosive that it let the Andrew run away with the game.
Yeah, and I think the timing of people dying as well made it harder for Nepo to try and see if he could open up some space on the side, whether it was in the flank by Banana, where it was in their spawn. I mean, by their spawn, I mean Celestials, of course. And that makes it a lot harder to do that when your only tank is being taken out almost instantly. Just being burned so quickly means that there's not really anyone to pose a distraction. You have to be as aggressive as you can, and with Nepo diving into the back, by that point, everybody was already ready to turn around. They were already ready to look at him because they already had control over the objective. So hopefully this time around, Chroma will see some sort of differences in seeing that seeing that they'll be able to draft a little bit better, which I don't even know if it really was the draft. I think they had a good draft. I think it was just the way it was played overall. So hopefully they'll be able to make some changes to their next strategy as they come into this next map.
Yeah, for sure. And I actually do have the picks and bans ready, so we can slide into that. And the map is going to be Bright Marsh. Of course, ChromaSpace are going to Bright Marsh. It is, I mean, one of the inevitable things, death taxes and ChromaSpace trying to go bring us to Bright Marsh here. They do have the first pick, so they also have the first ban. We'll see where they want to go. My guess is that they stay about exactly where they were in the previous round, and with Vivian going first, I'm not too surprised. I wouldn't be shocked to see Celestial try to get rid of that ruckus as well with how things looked in that first game when they banned it. But Atlas, I mean, Tutu looked insane on it. They know what Atlas can do. They obviously don't want to play against it.
Right, and I feel like based off of Chroma having the Atlas last time and then Celestial having the Atlas the other time around, I guess both teams are in mutual agreement that they'll just let Atlas through. We're not going to deal with it against the corresponding team. But Genos Atlas and Vivian Victor are going to be banned out. Ruckus is going to be the immediate first lock-in for ChromaSpace. Will Celestial try and get the counter almost instantly? Only time will tell.
Yeah, and Ruckus first pick, I do definitely like that. I think Cassie could be high priority for them here, just to have that up for the big game, to burn through, deny the shields and all of that. Celestial have 2 picks still available. Term actually someone in chat mentioned, Term actually makes it through the ban phase. But normally he's taken to kind of force a Nara to be this priority pick, because if Term's gone and they get a Nara, it's like, oh, if we want a point tank in our strategy, it has to be a suboptimal one, whether it be Nando, whether it be Barrick, couldn't even say that name, whether it be Barrick fighting into him. It's still tough. I think you end up with a suboptimal matchup if that was your plan going into it.
Yeah, well, Grover's going to be locked in first on the side of Celestial Esports, so they at least have that sort of death ball-y composition, or at least a start to a seemingly death ball-y composition on the side of Celestial Esports, with Ash being locked in soon after that. It's at least more of an aggressive composition for Celestial. At least the Grover can play aggressive if he wants to, and I also think that's a little bit to deny ChromaSpace from getting even more aggressive if they needed to, because Ruckus Ash makes it a lot harder to really do anything if you have any sort of backline. So that's good on Celestial to be able to draft that according to according to what Chroma seems to want to draft. But Maldamba, Androxus, and Furia on the side of Celestial.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, they still have ROM available. That's still an aggressive off tank if they want to be able to make it in with it. So getting Ash to deny that doesn't really do as much, I would say, for them. Celestial wanted that Maeve again. I mean, it did pretty well for them the last game. I think the aggression it opened up, definitely something I would want again. But it's a different map. It's Bright Marsh. Maeve can still do a lot on this map, yes, but I think it might be a little bit less of a map where she can kind of just run wild like she was able to on Stone, where you have all those abilities to go around and flank.
Right, and of course you have the aggressiveness in the form of the Furia to sort of back up and double down on that with that Inflame, but Cassie is going to be locked in on the side of Chroma, so that's once again another denial, and Rom on the side of ChromaSpace to end their draft. If you want to talk about aggression, you got Rom at your back. Can we potentially see a Maeve Street Justice here? No one can really burn Rom down on the side of Celestial, or are they just going to leave it all to the Grover to make sure they can get the cripples off, or Furia to the stuns to see if they can deal with that Rom? What would be your response on the side of Celestial?
Yeah, I honestly don't know. I think you maybe rely on the Grover. I think you want the poke to win the duels, because if you're playing Street Justice,
Right.
You're just putting yourself at a disadvantage against Andro and Cassie in 1v1s. I get you kill the tanks faster, but depends on how you're playing the Maeve more or less than anything. They do pivot away from the Corvus. I guess they blamed it for their loss last game, and it was definitely tough, but I really don't think it was his fault. I think it was just the way they kind of failed to keep him alive on their side. So I will get things ready to get us in game. I'm sorry that this keyboard is so loud. It's some membrane one I got with my computer, and I need to buy a mechanical numpad, honestly, so I can actually spectate games while still having my full desk space available. But fun. I mean, look, from the drafts that you saw, do you like that double support? Do you like the Grover Furia on the side of Celestial, or do you think that might not be enough sustain against this Ruckus Rom Andro Cassie?
I think when it comes to the Whirlwind, at the end of the day, of course, Grover's going to have a lot of that instant burst sustainability. But anytime before that, I feel like it might be a little bit harder for them to try and keep everybody alive. I mean, sure, Rom doesn't do that much damage, but the amount of damage that he does consistently is the problem. He's going to be looking at one of those targets in the back line, especially if it's one of the healers, and try and open up something. It's going to force out the cooldown on the heal. They're going to have to force out their escape abilities, and they're just going to try and skedaddle right on out of there, right? But in the long run, I think as the game goes on, when we start getting those Chronoses online, if we get the morale boost on the side of Close Arts, they have that double support. They might try and focus more so on the Inflame. Who knows? But it seems like for the most part that they're actually, and it is going to be the Street Justice actually. Yeah, the OTEV is actually going to go for the Street Justice Maeve. So they feel like Ovum is going to be a huge threat, which I completely agree with. I feel like you would want to burn down that ROM almost instantly, especially if you're worried about your tanks living for a little bit longer. And Furia starts off with a morale boost. Okay.
Honestly,
kind of big brain from you.
I feel like it might just be more for Ruckus, right? Because I honestly, I mean,
Yeah, true.
chat, correct me if I'm wrong as we have a pause here. I don't know the exact interactions between Soul Armor and Street Justice. I don't know if ROM, what counts as 35%, how well it burns him down. But the Ruckus, I know for sure when he shields, even if he has the health threshold below 35%, he dead. He has no out. He's dead.
I believe that if you have the Street Justice, I think the execute is based off of Rom's initial health pool. I don't think it counts the double stack after that, because of, if I remember correctly, I think there was a time, I could be completely wrong, but if I remember correctly from like yesterday when I was playing, I think there was a time where I actually executed a Rom that actually ended up using the Soul Harvest to get most of his health pool back, but he still got executed in a situation like that. So, I mean, I don't know. Only time will be able to tell, but I'm pretty sure that it depends entirely on the original health pool of Rom,
Yeah,
not necessarily.
Chat in messages 4 people apart have said it is not affected and it is affected. So I'm glad to see that everyone is as clueless as I am right now.
Right,
with this
both
potential
of us are,
engagement
okay.
here. Look at this pinch. Nepo's actually in so early. He's drawing all the aggro, but it's opening the door for Ovum, running straight into tree and taking down Close On.
They were already so weak, and that, like you said, all I did was open the door for Rom to walk right on through. Nepo drew so much attention and found the damage onto the targets that they wanted, and they're at least able to find Adium as well and force him back. So that at least allows Celestial to step up a little bit more, but not too much of anything. 45% to 21. They find another pick on the Coriol, and that means the Celestial can regain their footing, but they have to be able to try and stop these percentages. Get stunned immediately out of it and can't make it out of that fight.
Wow, that was just... As soon as Ovim wanted to run away, he had no chance to. Slav, the Strix one trick for Celestial, now able to take this right side after they win that fight pretty strongly. They need to they need to dismount them. They have mobilities, but they want them to have to spend them to get to the objective. And look, Ovim, hey, he got by on mount. He might be able to actually run in and touch the point, and he does. Coriol threw away his life for it, though. They didn't know he was going to have that. Tensovsky doesn't realize where Slav is and falls.
Strong goes to the back line once again. He doesn't get dealt with necessarily, but they find picks on everyone else but him, so it makes it a lot easier to regain control over that point. You don't really have anybody that can allow Rom to do his job a little bit better than before. Oh my goodness! I don't think he could have moved. I think as soon as they saw him, he got crippled, he got stunned. There was nothing he couldn't escape from that situation. There was literally nothing you could do about that.
But did you not notice how many no scopes in a row Slop hit on him? That was absurd, but I mean, I think either way it wouldn't have mattered. He was still falling regardless. Nepo tries to make it all happen, does kill Slop, but trades. Now this whirlwind actually completely stopping this dive in its tracks.
Already Coriol seems to try and push in a little bit longer. You have the Earth Splitter that goes out. Manages to catch not only one, but a good few members of the team of Selestial Esports, but they've been cleaning up pretty well in the long run. They've been keeping a lot of presence on these guys. As soon as Rom dives to the back line, it seems like they've been losing a lot. Nepo actually just sitting there eating a lot of damage as well, has to force himself back into spawn. Otep doing a good job of making sure this Maeve is getting a lot of value out of the Street Justice, making sure they can burn those tanks almost instantly. Coriol moves in as well, same thing for Ovum. Moving all the way to the back. Let's see if I can try and pay attention here to at least what Ovum was going to try and do. I can see if the Street Justice would have mattered, but they take care of Otep almost instantly. Dread Serpent to utilize things, but assert dominance as soon as he gets out of that Dread Serpent CC. Coriol's low. He gets dealt with. Slop manages to find those hits, finds a second one. That's a nice cleanup double. Celestial Esports are going to roll this one right in.
I like the dive at the start where they had Ovim and Coriol kind of syncing up to attack the same person, but then they didn't have the DPS come with them. Nepo was a little bit too far back. They lose Ovim, and then they lose Coriol on the retreat. There was some great peel. I mean, they forced out 2 uses of the Assert Dominance, burnt through the CC. They stunned him once he landed, but there was too much damage for Coriol to actually be able to get away. Xenos and Toot perfect game right now, and the dive tanks kind of synced up here on 4 deaths apiece along with Adium. Let's take a look at the Ovim, the ROM build, because everyone kind of has their own signature ROM build. Like, no one is really running the same thing. Some people in NA have taken Legacy's build, but usually you have some mix of these cards. Some people have Shattered Essence, some people have Apocalypse higher, but everyone's running a different thing. Ovim's focused on resets, damage reduction, and distance, and you might need that distance for the way this dive is going. Already coming in, synced up with Nepo and the Hexafire to follow up.
Ooh, that's going to be a good look for them. But Nepo actually goes down in the long run. Closar is at least able to find one. But Coriol cancels out the ultimate almost instantly. Tutu finds that pick. The Midnight gets utilized. Otep's going to live through the disengage. But it's not going to be enough for ChromaSpace to even regain a single fraction of what happened. Rom ate a lot of damage when he rounded that corner. And even still, it wasn't enough for them to try and force out anything. Nepo going down, especially when both Coriol and the Rom, or both Ruckus and Rom went in, it just made it that much harder for them to try and retake.
Look at this right now. They have the retake. This could be a huge Cataclysm, and it is. It stuns 4 people, and it breaks the shield, but there was no follow-up right away.
Otep and Slop are going to find one. Slop finds 2. That's another double as he's trying to find more and more damage. Jonah Coriol, everyone's being healed back up as Nepo is the last one remaining. Reversal is out, and a headshot for 2160. I don't think you can say much about that except for the fact GG easy, I guess. If you're playing with that double healer composition, it's so much harder to try and break through that. And I feel like that's why they went to that Inflame on Furia. It means that they can put a stop to any sort of aggression that Chroma have.
And now they know they have to run down Slop, and they do. Ovim actually gets the little bit of juggles there for the reset, and he's in the middle of their team right now. But Otep, look at this. He's tearing him apart. DPS, Andro and Ruckus both fall. keep up the pressure. This stun actually could get him traded out since Sovsky tries to do his best to delay the cart. And I think it's good that Chroma's willing to die here, this far forward, I think. You fight the cart all the way up there so that your tanks have a chance to respawn and you can actually get a proper fight there on the objective. Right now, though, ChromaSpace, they have this dive tanks. These dive tanks, they need to respawn so they can get into the map. They're already getting pressured. Half a health bar already spent on Coriol. And now they have to dive into complete darkness with the Midnight coming.
Midnight being utilized means they want to try and put this one to bed. They find good shots onto Otev with the accursed arm, but Adium still goes down. Slop comes right around to make sure that he can last hit one of the members on the side of ChromaSpace. Everyone's falling one after the next. The Hexfire continues trying to find good damage, and they do on the Slop, but he's still alive!
The flashbang!
Oh, the flashbang! It was the flashbang! The flashbang peeled for him well enough, and they didn't see where Strix was, even though the Hexafire was utilized so well. Celestial with a nice 2-1 score for him. Very well done. Good draft and an even better game for Celestial Esports.
Brutal by the end. I wish I was spectating Slop there. I usually don't like spectating someone who gets dove because it's absolute chaos at that point, and he's getting knocked around, sent everywhere. I wish I knew how much health he had because it was next to none with him surviving at that last moment. Just a ridiculous sustain there near the end. I think Furia Grover, I guess, clearly enough, even when you're getting pressured that much, gonna be enough healing. And we can take a look at the stats from that game and hope that it is from that game. Yes, it is this time. Ovim actually almost top damaging for his team, only like 120 behind Adium, so the ROM doing the most, but every single member on Celestial except Closar out damaging the opposition there. Slop, obviously, I think heads and shoulders above everyone else. Also taking the least damage too, always playing off to the side of the dive. So good play by Slop, and I'll take a look at the KDA to see how he ended up there. 10-2 from him, 13-2 from Otev, and Tutu managed to maintain his deathless streak all the way to the end of the game, going 6-0, and a synchronized triple eights death from ChromaSpace. The dive tanks and Adium all kind of having rough games, but I think just what they wanted their comp to do couldn't happen.
Yeah, and I think it just came down to Celestial really min-maxing on a lot of their compositions, honestly. I'm like, we're min-maxing on this composition specifically, where you have the Grover, really the one that's focused on healing.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, you had Closar that started off with Cherish to make sure that he could also provide that healing when necessary, but he started off morale boost one, like I was saying, because they want to be able to counteract that dive that is there. And Otev, literally, even though he has all those kills, doesn't have more damage than Slop. He is still just executing whoever that they're focusing on. Whatever Slop doesn't get, he's going to get. That's exactly what's going to happen, and that's just going to be the end of it, honestly. Like, I don't think there's really much else that could be said about that one.
I think ChromaSpace have to figure out something draft-wise because, or maybe just gameplay-wise in general, it feels like whenever Celestial wins, it's dominant. It is just like, I never even thought Celestial had a chance of losing. But the map ChromaSpace one was hard fought. That was kind of a very back-and-forth game on Jaguar Falls until the very end, where they won off the back of a fantastic wall, I would say. Let's take a look at what the next map is going to be. I do have that here. It is Splitstone Quarry going to be next up here in this match. So this is ChromaSpace's pick. So after losing Brightmarsh in a shocking turn of events, they lose Bright. Looks like their backup will be Splitstone. So high ground. I think some different chances there to run mobile flankers. So if they want to play that kind of ruckus, even an Eevee if they wanted to pull it out, this is a great map for that kind of style.
I agree, and that's so interesting to see in its entirety. The fact that that they did lose on Brightmarsh, because that means that they have to settle for another map, even though it is Splitstone. At the same time, that is not what you typically see on the side of ChromaSpace. You don't really see ChromaSpace losing on Bright. That is their map. That is a map they like to default to so frequently, and it just gets snatched away from them by Celestial. So hopefully they'll be able to make the adjustments necessary that didn't quite work out for them on Bright, one of their key maps, and we'll have to see how they will respond this go around. See how they start off the first ban. Seems like for the most part it's going to be Victor. Victor is going to be the first ban on the side of ChromaSpace.
Yeah, ChromaSpace definitely not changing that up for now at the very least. And I think Celestial, I mean, they've been looking so good, I doubt they're going to change anything right away. And yep, Atlas still going to be removed from the game. Second ban. I mean, it's got to be Vivian, right? I mean, Vivian, we know how strong she can be, even on Splitstone, a map that might be a little more range heavy. But Ashe instead, I mean, I guess, okay. 2-2 went 6-0 last game. I would too. I mean, they seem to be targeting Toot. Atlas gone, Ash gone. Depending on what the next ban is here for Celestial, maybe they can deny strong off tanks from Toot and try to play that game. Genos, so same 2 bans from Celestial here. First pick open. They can play some flankers. They can play different stuff like that. I don't know if they want the Ruckus on this map. But verticality, I guess, is still kind of important. They do get that Ruckus, able to jump up, utilize that high ground. As we know, he's the only dive tank with that strong vertical mobility. So pick him up, send him into the back line, and hope you have enough aggression to follow up.
Yeah, we'll have to see if this Ruckus can work out this time around on the side of ChromaSpace. Once again, and as you guys can see up on the screen, that is a first pick Ruckus on the side of ChromaSpace. Celestial decided to go for the Grover in Nara. Grover locked in first once again to counteract that Ruckus dive. Once he dives in, when you get crippled, you can't really get out, and that was evident enough on Bright March last map. So Androxus is going to follow suit soon after that, and Damba almost the same, really, sort of locking in the same stuff almost.
Yeah, I mean, they've kind of abandoned Corvus. I guess they lose the one game with him, and they just don't want him to be picked up again. It's got very similar start, so similar. I had to make sure these weren't the picks for Bright March, and it's definitely not. Definitely still Splitstone Quarry, but Celestial. I guess they liked what they had with everything. The Mave and the Strix here. ChromaSpace. How are they going to change up the last couple of picks with what's available?
Yeah, and we'll have to see how they will shake things up on the side of ChromaSpace. As Terminus
That's one way to do
be
it.
locked in as well. I agree. That is one way to do it and do it well. But of course, leave Victor in the ban column, and you don't take out the other V, and that's going to be Vivian. There's going to be a lot of damage on the side of ChromaSpace and an even more consistent backliner as they decide to run Grover Furia once again on the side of Celestial Esports. Second time's a charm. I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So they must have liked how that played out last time on Bright March. And I would too, especially if they played it as well as they did.
Yeah, I think stick with the same draft. It is a different map. It might struggle a little more without having as much verticality. I think here they have the Mave and the Grover, and that's about it. Okay, and I guess, all right, chat's gonna chastise me. Yes, Inara could run Summit 5. Yes, Furia can jump and spend her ult just to get to the high ground. I know, but realistically, that's not going to be what happens as we get into game here. Celestial on potential match point, and Otev still running this Street Justice, so even not against a ROM, they think it's strong enough. Terminus and Ruckus both going to be pretty effective into him. They can pierce through the Siphon, and they can pierce through that emitter being used by the Ruckus.
Let's see how things are going to turn out this go around. Second time in a row for almost the exact same draft on the side of Celestial Esports. And once again, running the Street Justice once more. And that does go through the Siphon, like you were saying before. I mean, I guess it poses more of a threat. But it turns out that it's not Summit that T2 is going to draft this time around. Big shocker there, at least in my opinion. But it seems like he's going to try and fight by Fidget Spinners against the Term and the rest of them. But he's getting burnt kind of heavily by this Vivian. Of course, she has Booby Trap ready to go. But at the same time, I don't know if that's still going to be enough for Celestial to try and move their way in, because she's still getting dealt with pretty heavily. And that's going to be a first blood for ChromaSpace. They're going to round things out with a nice first blood on the Inara.
Chroma have complete control right now after that first kill. No one else can really touch the point with the solo tank composition. And now they can get this aggression up right now. Coriel already in pretty far in the back, but Seas2 says, nope, I am out of here. But Adium doesn't really get the memo. Standing in front of Slop, getting picked off. Watch Slop's angle here, staring at Ovin, but Ovin can block an infinite amount of damage. Slop makes the rotation, does the jump with tactical retreat, something you can only do with that. Nepo just deleted from the game. Players wish they could do that to Vivian as a whole, but for now, only Slop seems to have that power as Celestial retake the point.
On that day, Slop provided humanity with a grim reminder as to why Strix is still a very powerful sniper. Adium is at least going to find one pick on Slop, so that's going to be a good damper for the forces of Celestial Esports. This 2 has to back up, but gets healed right back up thanks to Furia Grover combined healing. 93% available for them as they make it back onto point. Siphon goes up, followed by the Midnight soon after, but Coriel goes down with the Midnight still being available. Ovin is pretty low. No revive available for him. He's going to get taken care of, and so is Adium. That's 3 down in very little time for Chroma to make it to points. So that's going to be a first capture for Celestial.
decent start for ChromaSpace, even if they don't end up holding it down. The Vivian, I think, gave them a lot of early damage that was used well for them. Otev almost actually just owned by the booby trap, getting sent flying back in, but Selestial will still hold their ground for now. Did they wall them in up here? Let's get a look. No, looks like actually the wall missed, but Tutu kind of completely isolated 4 people on him, but Whirlwind just exactly where it needs to for Selestial, along with the seismic crash.
Oh, but they used the Dread Serpent to counter out. That was so well done by the boys on ChromaSpace to be able to counter out that Whirlwind being provided by the Grover. They were able to stop the aggression that was provided off of the seismic crash, and because of that, they were able to move in and force out a retake in the long run of things. That's going to be a good look for them. Closar is down as well, as now Corio has control over high ground. Tutu is trying to make his way back in. They know Slop is there. He's trying to peel, and now he's going to be able to provide the body blocks so Slop can make it out safe.
And they're still just going to wait strong. I think actually they can have the Inara climb to the high ground here by using the wall against that little gold basket, but they're going to inflame instead. Bootstrap actually sends Tutu flying in for this aggression, and Adium completely caught off guard.
Already it seems like Otev is at least able to find one, but Corio finds the next one soon after that, making it a 1-for-1 trade and a 4v4 in favor of both teams. Fury almost dies there and has to back up. Terminus tries to go in, but may have overextended a little bit too far. They knew that the Furia was low, and you see that they're trying to follow up in the back line. They at least get one of the healers, but will they find the other? The Pirate Strike goes out and they find the stun, but Slop already found himself a nice double. As you know, Nepo is up there. Otev follows suit soon after, shoots the flare up there to see if he can find the mark, but doesn't find it. Otev backs off once he knows that Corio rotates around to help him, and Nepo backs up into a well-placed sniper shot as Xenos finds another good kill. Adium freaks for a little bit longer. He gets taken care of, has to back up all the way, gets left low, and he actually finds the winning trade onto Otev despite how low he was. Gets healed right back up, and now Ovum is trying to contest the point against him.
Wait, Ovum.
How could this happen
Ovum!
to me?
You can't do that,
I made my
Ovum!
mistake.
Come on, man!
Got nowhere to run.
What? How do I break that down? How do I break that down, Fawn? I just can't! He just leaves the point!
Yeah, he stepped off of the point. For those of you that don't understand what happened right there, Ovum was on the point, but then he backed off. That's why they were able to push it in. He had it contested through the Inara wall, and then he backed up. That's literally all it was. For those of you that was confused and were like, wait, what went on? It's he backed off the point when he had it contested. That's what happened.
Even worse, not only that, he left the point to spend his charges. So it's not like he's even bringing extra benefit into this round. Just spends the charges and they go. Damage in the favor of Nepo. On top of the charts right now as they claim Quarry again. Tutu really can't live in front of this Vivian, and Ovum is taking this space just like he did on that last hold, but a seismic crash is coming in. It stuns him, and he might live through it, but he still has this reanimate if he wants to keep this fight potentially rolling.
I think he is going to use it as soon as he steps in for a little bit longer, but Corio already gets taken care of, so now Ovum's in a little bit of a bad spot. The Gorgon gets tossed out. That's where he's going to run to, but the wall with the accursed arm, and the Andro can't peek over into that little slot to see if he can find some damage onto the point. They just end up taking care of Ovum with 51% for Celestial. This is a more than a good look for them already, 63%, and the percentage is steadily climbing. But they find 2 picks already. They may have been a little bit too aggressive, bitten off a little bit more than they could have chewed, but Sinzovsky is still going to go down as Tutu is drawing so much attention towards him. But no one's being able to cap on the point. They actually forced them off thanks to the Androxus, and the healers are left really low.
Yeah, great by Adium rotating over to the point to stop them from capping. He's the one who remembered about the objective and managed to keep them off of it for now. But they're all sitting on the low ground. I mean, Corio waiting here for someone to dive in. This could be a good angle to Hexafire, though. If this becomes a desperate situation, if they have the poke to slow them down enough, this is a great position to spend that on that objective. But it looks like they clear that on the side of Celestial. 3 people stacked here, but this Hexafire could be huge. Corio all over them right now. Only finds one before Otev takes him down.
But the rest of them have to respect the Hexafire damage. They backed off, and a lot of them got hit by other members that were ready to clean up on what was already being presented to them. But Nepo and Ovum are going to find one apiece. That makes it 2, means that the numbers are more even towards this mid-fight. Otev can't contest for much longer as the Gorg gets tossed directly on the point, and you can't burn them down quick enough. ChromaSpace, we're going to capture their first point on this map, and now they have the zone.
This is their first point in like 3 maps, right? 2?
It is, yeah.
It's been
two maps. It's been 2 maps.
Yeah, it's been a while. No, wasn't Stonekeep before? Oh,
I don't think it was a 4-0. I think they were at least able to capture one, unless it went by that quickly and I wasn't even able to notice. But
well, we're only an hour in and we're on map 4, so that might have been possible. And Coriel doesn't want anything to be impossible, trying to do this flank right now with a Midnight coming in, though. Adium doesn't see it coming, and 2 people fall to closer.
Immediately after that, they're able to find 2. They found the next one in the form of Xenos, so that's 3, of course, with Nepo continually backing off. Doesn't want to step up a little bit too far. Already with the Rezo 3 on the side of Terminus and the Nimble 3 as well, so he's not going to be stunned for very much longer. Ovum can get in there if he wants to against the team with a lot of high CC. Ovum's all the way in the back. Who was that in the back as well? I didn't manage to see who that could have been, but somebody seems to make it back up to the fort. Coriel, there he is. He tries to force him out. They use the Dread Serpent as well, and they use the Inflame. They had to use that to counteract the dive that Coriel was able to present, so even if they do get these kills, that's a good look for Chroma to have an easier retake the next go around.
Look at that, the Root coming into, they might kill Coriel because of that close fire. He's doing so much damage. I feel like he's cleaning up on almost every kill right now, and Tutu with a perfect pinch from lower. Great aggression when you can sync up with your Inara from behind them. Closar even managed to rotate through the heal, and ChromaSpace sent back to their base as the cliche we have to do. Yes, Celestial is the team that is defending. They're not on tack, that is Chroma. So keeping him pressured out, but Adium finds a pick onto Otev, and now they have to fight this 5v4.
They have to really back off, but Slop is caught out a little bit more forward. You see that Fury wanted to try and heal him, but he couldn't really peek at an angle like that because everybody was already looking and watching that angle. Fire Strike goes out, but he gets stunned for probably about half a second. Then he's able to move right back on in and confirm the kill onto Closar. Maving all the way in the back line, tossing out the daggers. There's not much that they can do. They just have to hold on as best as they can. Maeve gets healed back up, and that allows her to move back towards spawn to try and regroup with her team.
We have some good poke from Xenos right now on this over one of the benefits he brings. Look at this engagement. All right, Ovim, I get why, but the cart had a ways to go before that kind of engagement could work, and now Chroma will have to back off here. I think they have no real way in unless they throw away a squishy. The Coriel actually, instead, no second dash makes him pull him so far away. All it can hope now is for some damaging kills maybe, but Nepo's going to be quite tanky, running them down. Ovim's back. They might be able to turn this.
And then they do. They know where Slop is. They know that he's already pretty low, and the Siphon to peel whatever damage is there, and it allows them to be able to stall for a little bit longer as well. They force out the Whirlwind to make sure that they could actually try and get the kill onto Nepo before it was too late, but people have made it back already onto the point, but Coriel's eating a lot of damage, so it's over. Reversal goes up. If they get the kill on Otev, this might be the change they wanted. The Reincarnate is there, but they're going to save it for a little bit longer. That's a good look for them, but forcing out that Whirlwind just off of the peel that Siphon was able to provide, that's a huge look into how this next round could potentially go, especially for ChromaSpace if they're able to retake this point.
Yeah, I think great decision making at the end by refighting that specifically to force out the Whirlwind from Xenos. Yes, it does recharge pretty quickly. They're going to have Whirlwind in a fight, in a couple of fights, but it's not there now. Now they have the chance to play aggressive. Coriel can kind of just go in and make a ton of room for Adium, who needs that space made for him going 7 and 9 at the moment. Really needs someone to kind of bear the burden of the damage that's going to be coming in. Not having Watchful means he can't really snowball as effectively, has to rely on his reversal being fed and connecting it afterwards. So we'll see how ChromaSpace do this. Again, aggressive on the left right now. I like this start, but Tutu also aggressive, completely spotted out by Otev. The first engagement comes with the seismic crash.
Everyone's looking pretty low on the side of Celestial Esports as Tutu is now being the next one to be burnt down. It gets taken care of almost instantly. They use the Inflames, have the Wings of Fury at their back to see if they can force the engagements, but they're going to back up. The Dread Serpent gets utilized as you have Slop being there. Not too great of a spot. Slop ends up winning that trade on the Coriel. The Reanimate goes through. The Gore gets tossed on point. They're able to garner more percentage for them, but with the comeback mechanic, it'll be easier for them to capitalize on this. Vivian has to back up a little bit more. The totem goes down along with the wall, walks around the other way, baits the wall out for a little bit longer. As now the percentage is still growing on the side of ChromaSpace. They can't stay too long because the comeback mechanic is a factor. They have to try and find a way to touch here if they can. Ovum has just been getting so much percentage, 89 already for his team as he has to back off or gets tossed out. But a lot of people are looking at the Inara already. The Earthen Guard is going to be down now in a couple seconds, and now that it is, they're going to use the opportunity. Hexifier goes through and finds that pick. They find the pick on the Ovum. That's a good trade. One-on-one as the Whirlwind gets utilized. They actually find that, and that's going to be a good look for them on the side of Celestial Esports. Is now the pause is actually going to happen, and that actually gives us a chance, or at least gives Krezzik a chance a little bit to break down that last fight. And what went so wrong towards the tail end of that for Chroma?
The death ball in lava, I think, really isn't helping them against the verticality and the collapse that they have on the other side. The fact that they can have a Ruckus kind of just standing behind, catching them out with Inara stuck on the point. They try to get some cap time, but the team, I think, needs to be more spread. They need to have this Maeve doing a little bit more than playing on top of everybody else over there. So when they got surrounded, they had just great positioning. Burn them down, even if it is an even fight right now, and Slop did a lot to keep things in their hands. Cap time was strong with Chroma. They just couldn't support Toot when he tried to actually stand on the objective.
It seems like already, that considering the fact that Celestial are able to win this fight, this could be an even better look for them, as Madamba is actually able to escape, and Slop does not manage to find the shot that we saw him lining up for pre-pause, excuse me. It's going to allow them to try and retake a couple of things, excuse me, as everyone's going to try and make it through by fidget spinners. So is there, but it's getting burnt down a little bit, but Coriel was at least able to force Slop to not hold on to that angle that he was holding on to for quite some time. Coriel just trying to draw eyes towards him. Everyone's being brought pretty low. Tutu and Anotev go down. Same thing for Xenost, and now Adium is the next one that's trying to move in, gets the triple kills, doesn't find the Quadra. Slop finds that, puts a stop to that one, and it's going to have to back off, but they are at least able to capture the point on the side of ChromaSpace. This is a good look for them, as they're now able to roll the cart forward and have an even better zone on the side of the room.
I was gonna say, I'm surprised Coriel doesn't have any Illuminate, but I guess he hasn't died in a while, has a lot of credits in the pocket. Definitely has to go spend that so he can dive onto the Strix a little bit better. Look at this pressure from that root just deletes them 5 members strong, rushing down Nepo. Adium looks like he's next on the list, but Reversal will keep him alive for now.
Nepo goes down, and everyone else is still, of course, trying to fight and see what pick it is they can find. Can Celestial try and regain this control and see that they will be able to? And they don't only find Coriel, they find Adium. Open has the siphon up. The minute it goes down, he gets burned. Too many people looking at him. Nepo is there and is at least able to try and back off, as Otev seems like he wanted to be a little bit more aggressive, but they can't really. They have to give him a little bit more respect than that. Cripple Axe goes out, and so it's the siphon and the peel for anybody that may be peeking to the underground. Otev gets killed on the very, very last couple of shots that Coriel are able to deliver on. Slop misses the shot onto Nepo. They don't submit the kill, and now the body blocks are here for Tutu. Wall goes up, tries to win the one-on-one, but you can't win with the Gort being placed down there right next to him. Has too much healing and the shield to make sure he comes out on top of that trade, and the rest of Celestial have to run back to base.
The emitter coming off cooldown was really what did it, honestly. That got him to stay in that fight. ChromaSpace now still moving this cart forward. They need to find a way to engage on them, though. Celestial are stacked, and really no way to flank them right now, but Tutu duels them right now. Look at this, just running into them inside of the mines, but taking a lot of damage in the whirlwind getting forced out. ChromaSpace could totally disengage now and re-heal, but Sensowski just keeps peeking Slop, and he falls.
Yeah, and that forces the rest of them to move back as well. It seemed like they wanted to try and have such a hard, or at least a good control, a hard hold on how ChromaSpace were trying to press forward. But once again, keeps peeking at the wrong angles, and Slop is able to capitalize on that already on a 7 streak, along with Furia being on an 8 streak. So those two are doing extremely well, and so are the rest of Celestial Esports for being able to hold on for as long as they have, sitting at 3 points for quite some time. But Chroma have been able to show the adaptation. The Cripple Axe actually spreads to Oval, spreads to the Terminus, so they're not able to get that going, but the Siphon goes right back up as soon as he makes his way on the point. They're chasing down Otev, and they find the pigs. Xenos looks like he'll be next, tries to Vine Grip out, but as the startup is about to hit that wall, he gets hit with a bullet into the back of the dome, punches Tutu into oblivion, and now you have overtime being a factor. The minute that they step off of that point, it's going to deplete. So can ChromaSpace try and roll this one in? It seems like they might even be able to. No one can really contest. Otev moves in, but he might get burned out immediately. He does, and he's the only one that can stop that. And I wonder if the booby trap actually stopped them from moving any more forward than they could have.
It's definitely possible. The booby trap might have been that CC that they needed. So we'll look at the damage charts right now. Oh my, I just noticed these damage charts, by the way, Fawn. Look at this. 155,000 coming out of this Vivian right now. And Slop, who has had a crazy performance so far, hasn't even hit 6 digits yet. So if this is a long last fight, I think Nepo could honestly be at 200k by the end of this game. Let's take a look at what build do we want to look at here. Let's look at the Ruckus. So dash distance 4, DR on dash 4, plus health 5, so a lot of sustain necessary for the dives, keeping him up and having that shield back a little bit more often. healing charge at the last second as well. Damba almost has 200k healing, keeping up effectively with the other side. But look at this Memorial. Aggressive start. Doesn't exit yet. Holds back those missiles, doing so much cleave damage, and he counters the side.
Nice. It forces out the wall as well as 2-2 gets burnt down almost instantly. That wall is not going to stay up much longer as the rest of ChromaSpace are able to make sure they have eyes directly on the 2-2 as soon as that wall goes down. The rest of Celestial Esports have to wait a little bit for really their only tank to make their way back to point, as the percentage still keeps getting gained on the side of ChromaSpace. A good shot from Slop at least leaves Audium low, but they're still holding on to the point very well on the side of ChromaSpace.
Which, I mean, terms great to have on the objective when they have a sniper, because the sniper tries to hit him and you time your siphon right, you just get more or less just to stay there with if you are being contested by somebody. 2-2's going to try to stay as long as he can. With Glory Control being completely given up, though, it's kind of difficult. Nepo is sitting over here, pretty much impossible to dislodge with how much Otev's been stalled. Control, but it looks like they want to get aggressive now with the Whirlwind getting forced into backline. 9%
to 54. At 69 turns into a 72 as Nepo finds a double. Oriole's drawing eyes in the back, but look at what Vivian's doing. Pretty much putting on a tear right now on the back line as Krover has to wait a little bit behind the walls, or at least behind that little podium, but can't thanks to the Sentinels. He's going to get burnt down. 2-2 is going to be next, and Otev follows suit soon after that. That's a good pick and a good confirm from ChromaSpace. No one else can touch the point, and that's going to be it. ChromaSpace find themselves tied up against Celestial Esports.
What a close one that is. And like I said, every map ChromaSpace wins is like a 4-3 or a 4-2, and every map Celestial wins, it's like I blink and it's over. I mean, I feel like this is a 2-0. ChromaSpace is up 2-0, it feels like, because the other game, Celestial, it barely happened. They won them so fast. But we end up on this fifth game in a set, these teams so close together. Definitely love to see this competition in EU. There's like 3 teams at 2-1 right now. I don't think we can talk about how contested this region is.
Right. And that's what's insane, is how contested this region is. I mean, it's just the fact that we've seen so many of these teams win back to back to back, and then all of a sudden it'll be like the next week everyone else gets changed up almost instantly. And by changed up, I mean the winners. Like, everyone seems to bring their A game every single week. There's always something that is new.
Yeah.
And that's what's crazy. That means that everyone's trying their best in the European region, and we see it here. Like you said, Chroma bring it to 4-3 most of the time. They take it all the way to the very last point, and it pays off in dividends for them. 174,000 damage for Vivian. That's nothing to scoff at, my friend.
Yeah, for sure. And we can take a look at the KDAs too. Well, while I have this up, because I know it takes you a second to catch up to them, I will mention really quickly. In chat, people are asking about Nepo on controller. Someone said that he switches if necessary. I'm not sure about, but what I will say is in draft phase for the PPC, the players have to declare who is on controller before the draft begins. So you can't just draft and be like, oh, wow, we got Victor Vivian. Plug in your controllers, boys. It has to be determined ahead of time, and the other team has to know. So there's a little bit of kind of a mind game there where you can take someone off a controller if you have someone flexible like that, like Skeppy. And, you know, maybe he can play some of that more less controller-oriented drafts in that time, or they can do something else, you know?
Yeah. And already 5-11 for Ovum. Not the best look, but at the same time, I mean, it's term. I mean, he's going to get burnt down a lot of the time. He has to peel for a lot of different targets. That siphon goes up, and of course, he has to make sure that his team get out effectively. And I think that's more indicative of the 13 assists than it is of the 11 deaths. May not be as much as Nepo and Sensovsky have, but he definitely was doing his job to the best of his ability. Celestial had a lot of kills on that Mave despite that. And I don't think, and me personally, I don't think that was a game to go street justice. I don't think that execution was as necessary. I feel like they could have had even more of a possibility to try and burn them down just off of Cat Burglar alone, though. That extra damage, 520 a piece on those daggers, that could have played a very huge role in them dealing with those squishies. Maybe Nepo wouldn't have popped off as hard as he did if he was getting burnt down as much.
I think the map being wider was really what hurt them, because the map was so
Also
wide. How do they all stay? If they all stay together, they're giving up so much map control as opposed to Bright Marsh, where they're all close enough to affect the whole map. I think just that draft specifically there definitely hurt a little bit. And we have the last map here lined up, number 5 in the set, and it's going to be Fish Market. So Celestial want to go to Fish for the final map, for the decider.
What map was that you just said, Chris? I don't think I've seen or heard of that one in a very, very long time. Let alone know what that one is at this point. My goodness, Fish Market is the map we're going to be going to. That is That is kind of crazy. That's an interesting map to hear because that's not one that we see as often
It
on
wasn't in
any team.
rotation until recently. It is why we follow the ranked map rotation here in the PPC. So
Right.
Fish is kind of a recent addition, I believe, and even then it's usually banned. But they banned the other different maps this time: Bazaar, Warders, I believe, Ice Mines, and I have it next to me. I can just bring it back up if I am smart. Bazaar, Ice Mines, Warders, and Shattered were banned this time instead. So Fish Market's going to be the last place that we end up going. I hope that this is set up properly as I pull up the picks and bans, and they are, except I need to swap the teams and up the scores. Not 3-1, 2-2. ChromaSpace versus Celestial right now. Celestial having the first pick. See what they want to ban. I mean, I'm not sure. I don't know what they want to get rid of. Is it still the aggro tanks? Do they still get rid of the Atlas? It's a bigger map, and I don't know if that's necessarily necessary, but Coriel has been doing too much, says Celestial, and they get rid of Ruckus.
Yeah, they don't want to deal with that dive any longer than they have to. We'll have to see how ChromaSpace respond with this. You get rid of one of the dives, they're probably going to bid on one of the hit scans, and they do. That's Victor, already taken out of the pool. Maybe Vivian will be taken out of the pool this time around. I mean, almost having 200k last time without opportunity and chaos, maximizing on that booby trap. It's going to be a lot harder for anyone to just sit there and say that's not a worthy ban. But Terminus on the side of Celestial, they have a lot more open. If they get rid of the Vivian, we have everyone online that typically may have been taken care of. We've got Rom, we've got Corvus, we've got Genos, and we have the Vivian.
And we have an emergency alert going off on it. Is everything okay?
I don't know. I guess somebody got their car broken into or
So
something like that.
if anyone is in our area, if anyone wants to run out and chase down this maroon Acura MDX, please do. Someone, if you can, I also got it, but I keep my phone on silent. Fortunately for me, Celestial with the first pick here on their chosen map here. I wonder. I really want to know what they're going to start with. Is it going to be that Atlas with that big? I don't really like him as much on this map, honestly, but they're going to keep that priority. 2-2 did a great job with him on Stone Keep, but I feel like that's a much stronger map for that Atlas.
Yeah, and that's going to be a good look for them too. I mean, we've seen the Atlas have so much control over how a lot of these fights go, and especially even still locking in the Strix into
they're taking it away
once again. They are taking it away. You are 100% right because the snipers are left open. But even in the same time, playing that sort of backline DPS into an Atlas, I'm not sure how Strix will be able to try and gain any sort of ground if you're on the side of ChromaSpace.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. I think they could just wait out the shield, though. If he's big shield, that's 20 seconds where Strix can do whatever he wants, and 5 where he can't. So if you can have a comp that can just kite away and not let him cross that gap, that can work. But they don't even have a comp that's going to push off of it. They have a Nora Atlas. They need flankers if they want to actually go in, and they just don't have that in their draft right now. Even the healer not really going to be able to follow up that effectively.
So you have the Luminary boost at the back of Genos. That's a good look for them, and oh man, Barrick.
He's here, trotting in.
He's here, yeah. He is on his way to the objective, and that's going to be the Barrick lock-in for the front line. Maeve is going to follow him soon after that. And that's the front line and the flank being locked in. Vivian is left open once again, so Celestial are going to say thank you very much and take care of that with the Buck to round things out. That makes it a lot harder for Maeve to do her job.
Yeah, I think so. Buck is going to try to trade into the Maeve, but this map is so big that they're kind of lacking that super aggression unless they go like bounce house and try to run in. But Buck into Genos is hard. I know we talk about Rom versus Genos, right, a lot of the time where Genos can lift him, but you also then have to focus the Rom. Buck kind of has the same thing, except you catch him out of the air and he has no reset. He just sits there, claps his hands together and goes, God, I hope I don't die, and doesn't really have much of a choice in the matter there from Chroma. And the last pick for them is going to be Rom. So Barrick and Rom, 2 tanks with this Genos, but only 2 counters on Celestial's side. With that Atlas and that Damba, they can keep the gap from him. They can play that distance. Potentially, this Rom could make a lot of problems for this Vivian.
Yeah, and that makes it a lot harder for Celestial to sort of just rest on their laurels in the backline and depend on this Vivian to do a lot of what she was able to bring in last go around. But even still, I mean, you have to worry about the Atlas rewind. You have to worry about a lot of the presence of being able to stop that Rom. If he gets to the back line, sure, he might get rewound if he tries to escape, same way at Ashwood. So we'll have to see how that plays into everything. It makes it a lot harder it makes it a lot easier for the Mave to do their job if you have a ROM helping you out as well, right? I mean, it means Buck won't be able to just
Yeah.
sit back there and deny everything that Mave is doing. So that's a good look for them on the flanks, but we'll have to see how everything turns out in the long run.
Yeah, on this fish, this map. I mean, I feel like the team that has more mobility and ability to dive will usually work out, and I think they're both equally stagnant teams. I mean, neither team really screams to me like, oh, they're going to get super aggressive and be able to cross that space, other than maybe half of Chroma, but the other half of Chroma is Barrack Strix. If Chroma can make this happen quick, they can have it work, but I feel like Celestial, maybe if it comes down to just like a death ball rotation, Celestial's comp could end up being better.
We'll have to see, of course, if that is truly going to end up being the case, because on paper, both of these compositions have their strengths and weaknesses, but we can only see how everybody is going to end up playing them in the long run. And it seems like everyone's having standard compositions for the most part, actually taking that Fortify to make sure that he can have a little bit stronger of a point presence. This time around, actually taking the Cat Burglar to provide more and more damage for his team, or at least for him to be able to provide. It means that ROM will have his work cut out for him, and so will the Mave, but immediately going straight to point. They're going to try and fight, see what they can, but he's immediately forced to burn that cooldown. 2-2 to Slop just swing all the way around in the back, and they've gained so much space, but how much longer will they live for? The answer is not very long, as Nepo's going to find that first blood.
Yeah, Nepo, I think, great aim on that Strix, taking him down, and they were able to get a lot of cap time, so Celestial might have a chance to retake, but then again, it is Fish Market, where it's almost impossible to get a retake with how wide open these sightlines are. You can already see how forward Ovim is getting these dismounts while at full HP thanks to ROM being ROM. But he has to back up. He's not willing to peek out in the open and ship them down. So we'll see them coming back in on these mounts. They don't have anyone. Is anyone in a good position for it? Yeah, Nepo. Wow, what a shot by him. Catch the mount. Close are dismounted too, so ChromaSpace, great zone, and Celestial, they have a long road to cross to actually touch the point here.
That's Fish Market for you. You see Anar trying to slowly make her way back to point, but as soon have to use the DR to go in, but as soon as it drops, gets void gripped and dealt with. 2-2 to close are now down out of the fight for a little bit longer. Otev is low on the side, but Nepo's going to be able to find that last hit. He's moving in with Slop, shoots the sensor mine, and takes care of that booby trap. Talent. Vivian getting caught out a little bit longer than she probably should have, and Nepo's going to find another last hit onto that sniper. Onto that backline.
Having an effectively uncontested sniper is going to be a massive boon as the game goes on for ChromaSpace right now. Nepo is also hitting everything, so that definitely helps too. He does need to reload. I'll get off his POV and see how they're going to be dealing with him. Otev would be the person to do it, but they use the bounce house on the block to counter Ovim, but what does he do then when the rest of the team just engages and the Cataclysm completely whiffs?
That's pretty value on the side of Celestial. They're at least able to stop ROM's run in more ways than one, but ROM's doing his job. He's been doing his job the whole time. He's been drawing eyes towards him. He's been making sure that people look in his direction. And in the long run of things, it's paying off in dividends. No one else can really stop Audium. No one else can stop Nepo. Coriel's able to contest on the point for as long as he wants to. And you have situations like this where Ovim just wants to run in and he's staring at him through the spawn doors.
And notice when Otev jumped in to try to find some damage, hey, guess what's waiting for him? Genos.
Yeah.
He gets gripped out of it, and there's nothing else he can do. Otev and Slop both already 0-4, and look at these damage charts right now. Strix doubling the damage of his Barrack, who's behind him, although I think that is part and parcel to him just farming off of an Inara beat on the point. He has killed probably 3 Inaras by now with 3 deaths on Closar, so that about adds up. It's just so hard to play Buck into this, I think, with Genos able to counteract you so easily. I want to jump to Sensovsky and see what his grip range is right now. He's what, 8? No grip range, so having to play close, but getting that 20% reset pretty much every time when this Buck commits.
He at least has, of course, the cooldown and the appropriate cards to make sure that he can spread out his Luminary buff as much as he possibly can. Otev can't really hold ground there. 2-2 and Slop are going to try and take the more passive route this go around. We're not going to force in too much with the Midnight to try and force things off. Another Slop in the back, and look where ROM is. Audium actually tries to dive onto Slop, but it's going to be too much as the Dread Serpent gets utilized, but everyone else has to peel back. Look at how much attention ROM is getting off of this. This is so much value. They use the Snake Bite to get the stun, but in the long run, they aren't able to find much, and he's still not dead. He drew off all 5 of them
living
away from the point, and he's still alive. They get the rewind. but they find closer soon after that. The rest of them can't push in.
Yeah, and they actually dome shield on point too, so who can even go in for it? Tutu already used the rewind, has no shield, has to set back, but it's just gonna hit the dome shield, nothing else happens. But Otev actually manages to get it, but all the kills are still coming up Chroma.
Oh, through time and space as well to find the kill onto Slop, and that just cements exactly what ChromaSpace want to capitalize on, which is that third point on Fish Market. Closar goes down soon after the point is captured, and of course, Genos Stensovsky is going to roll this one continually forward as his team is going to get that zone.
And they have all this ground up here, and this is one of the hardest parts of the map easily. They might be able to kill Nepo though. Invisible Tutu does get the follow-up. Great setback to make sure that happens, but Selestial still, how do you realistically defend this? This is why Fish is such a hard map to play. You have to cross such a wide open sideline for this, but a great wall lets him get the follow-up on Coil, but they might be countered out potentially by this Cataclysm.
Cataclysm to get the stuns, but Ovum can't really stand here much longer. That Gord has been getting off. Well, I mean, yeah. So we thought it's a pretty accurate statement. He thought he couldn't stand there for much longer, but he stalls them for long enough to where most of his team is now back and able to fight. They aren't on point exactly. They are there long enough. Seismic Crash gets utilized directly on the Coil, and Coil gets picked off just as Rom was able to make it back.
Right now, 2-2 trying to move forward, uses a second chance, but still kind of in front of some people with Addy and getting dueled. Rewind could lead up to a kill, and it does, with Closar already pinching. And now the aggressive defense from Celestial, I think, fantastic, as long as they don't get surrounded. But a flashbang to initiate with the shield coming up early. Ovum could run in, and we'll keep the camera on him as he does it. A 3-man knockup, but 2 CCs spent on him, and he just walks away from it. 3 CCs.
Yep. Thanks to the rewind, he was actually able to escape that really uncontested. They weren't able to find the pig, and he was able to just skedaddle on out of there. He didn't have to worry about much that Celestial were able to serve up, because the rewind served everything they needed to, everything that he needed in that scenario, just a way to get out. That Dread Serpent didn't find as much value as it could have, and now he's sitting pretty. Now the rest of Celestial have to back up, and I'm actually a little bit curious, Krez. I do see a couple of people in chat asking for what exactly the ROM's deck is.
I didn't show it at first because it's probably the same one he was running before, which it is, the Void Lord 5, Harbinger 5, Subjugation 3, and Apocalypse 1, but it's just a DR reset focus mode as you normally expect, and a little bit of distance, and people stacked up in that time and space. Also, the Dome Shield in front of them is forcing all of Celestial back.
Yeah, they're already diving directly onto the back, and Xenos and Otev is pushing up super far. He's already pushed up with the rest of his team, and Xenos really can't do much. Gets dove directly into the back line, and Slop is there. He can't stay there for much longer. Both the flank and the tank are going to deal with him, and they're just body blocking Closar as best as they can. Use the Earthen Guard, but that's all she wrote. ChromaSpace are going to take this one away with a 3-2 against Celestial Esports.
Yeah, I think powerful picks by them near the end, even though there were 2 counters on the field. Multiple counters on the field for that ROM, with the Damba, with the Atlas, with the Bounce House Buck, the way they played it. They had a bunch of ways to stop him. I think sacrificing all that just got him kind of overwhelmed by everybody else. The ROM was able to go in, and everyone else just kind of flooded in behind him. And no matter how much CC they had to stop him, they just got owned. ChromaSpace, with their first decisive win of the set, brings them to a match win all in all.
Yeah, and I'll definitely eat my words on that statement about the divider being a little bit too much for Strix to handle, because that divider was mostly spent in trying to peel for the rest of the team. Everyone was so focused on the ROM a lot of the time that Strix just sat back uncontested, much like that Vivian was that we saw on Splitstone. Strix was, Nepo was sitting pretty the entire game, 76,000 damage, and Vivian not even scraping past 50k as opposed to the previous match. That's a pretty telling tale of how this match went, and how much control Chroma had off of the back of Ovum and off of the back of Nepo.
Yeah, Vivian doesn't really handle super aggression that well, also at big range that well. Hey, you know what this reminds me of? Yeah, I'm thinking of a certain other Vivian pick on Fish Market from a European team that didn't really work out. Navi at Worlds. Navi at Worlds against Team Envy. Vivian can work on this map, but when you get pushed on, it's just not going to be enough. It's just not going to be enough. Vivian kind of needs to move in like a big death ball with your team, and they just didn't have the comp for it, and they just got rolled over most of the game by Ovum. The death ball was never going to work against that.
Yeah, and it just goes to show that even though Vivian is a strong pick, of course a lot of these strong picks do have their own counters, and Slop didn't really have much room to breathe after being dove on consistently time and time and time
Hmm.
again. And shout outs to shout outs to Adium as well. I wasn't really giving him his dues, but he went 8-1, pretty much fighting with Oba most of that entire time, just finding those picks and making it that much more prevalent for them to be able to cement this win. But a very close set overall. We go to game 5, and that's already a good look for him for sure.
Hey, speaking of close, how about these standings that I can pull up now that all the matches are done for the week, and I will
Ooh.
run you guys through them. Clown Fiesta, Interstellar, and Yoinkers. 2-1, 2-1, 2-1. The only difference is that Yoinkers have one less map win. And on the other side of it, Celestial at 1-2, Mixalazub at 1-2, and ChromaSpace at 1-2. By the way, bottom team just beat the team that was 1-1. ChromaSpace getting their first win on Celestial, a team that I thought was looking pretty okay before. So I think good look, a very close region across the board, and I am so excited to see how things go with some I've heard about some roster changes that might be happening in coming weeks. We already know about the Prosper switch up between Yoinkers and Clown Fiesta, but I'll tell you right now, I'm pretty sure that's not the only thing that we're going to see differently in Europe in week 4.
Yeah, and I'm a little bit excited to go into that, of course, with the things it was that you were alluding to for a little bit, Krez. But once again, with these standings, this just goes to show what we were saying before. Europe, a very highly contested region. Everyone's battling it out, and even still, the ones that are towards the bottom of the overall standings, it makes it that much better to show off that that's how hard these teams are working, because we only have -2, -3 differentials. Those could change in the next couple of weeks. We have no idea how these teams are going to come through and provide us with some awesome gameplay next go around. But of course, I'm going to throw right to a break, and when we come back, we'll be right into the Brazilian bracket.